Hey, so just start before we start, just to say I'm no expert at Fusion 360. I am just merely a learner, self-taught YouTube from YouTube Learner. Right, so let's just go through. So here's the part that I machined, just to show you. So I don't want to go through how the part was made, but here's our part. What I do is I also model up the stock that the part's going to be in, so that also allows me to make sure I've got enough clearance around the part and sort of how I'm going to hold the part and so on it goes. Speaking of holding the part, what I'll do is I'll show you the different sort of operations. I've taken some modeling of the table for a mill and my vase and sort of touch off things and put them in sort of the right place, so that if I've got any operation that nothing's in the way. And sort of this is how it is going to be machined and held with the little parallels. And this is going to be for up 1, and I do up 1, and then I then have up 2. Well, this is still up 1. I ended up cocking it up, so I had to do it again. What I did was, the very first holes I made were just little 8mm holes, and then I didn't really have a place when I flipped the part over to measure it properly. So what I ended up having to do is come back and sort of measure from this edge, and then actually cut out the hole there. But what's good about having this again modeled up is it shows me that I can, no issues with clearance and nothing's going to be hit. Now let me show you what it looks like when we do the final op. When we turn it over, you can now see the parallels are gone and all of a sudden I'm really close to hitting the top of the vase with the machining, and I've still got these holes that I want to machine out to get the stock out. So it gives you a little bit of a view of what that looks like. What we can also then do is we can have a look here very quickly at a sectional analysis. We click on that, and then we can sort of go through and see sort of what our clearances are. So if you have a look here, this is the clearance between the vase and the cutter. It's a 3mm gap, so that's all I have in order to make this thing not become a cock-up. So anyway, let's look at the cam stuff. I think that's what the interest was more in. So if I just go to design and I go to manufacture, and I'm not on the right part, I'm on this part now. Let's go design and manufacture. Here are the different, as you can see. So here's if you look at the first operation, there it is there. What we've got here is, the first things first is I'm going to turn off this model now, because that's the body I don't need. This is my stock. When you set it up, obviously, if I show you what it looks like, we set up where we want to reference from. We're going to be referencing the stock at that top left corner there. Now, the important thing to note here, how you design and the plane you use when you're designing it has no bearing to what you're doing when you're machining it. So you can machine it different. You can select the Z-axis and the different planes and so on and go. So you can change it around. And then from a stock point of view, I actually measured the stock I had at hand, and I actually put the actual size of the stock down. So it gave me a really good understanding of what that is. A lot of people, I think, sort of just put whatever they want. And as you can see, there is my machining coordinate system. That is my design coordinate system. Like, completely different. It doesn't matter, because this is how we're going to be machining it when we are now in the manufacture part. And we can add fixtures as well. So if I was to do machining on the this up here, I can actually add little fixtures, and it would let me know if there were any collisions. So if we look at this pocket here, and you can see it shows somewhat the height of the tool and the actual stick out of the end mill that it's going to go in and machine that. It's important to make sure, if you want to see what it looks like when we do the simulation, that we're not hitting anything, that we actually set up the tooling correctly. So what I do is, when I edit the tools, let's go to tool library. Let's have a look at this. So we are going to be using this 10mm end mill. Let's just double check, make sure it is correct. That's what I used here. That was a 10mm. There it is there. So when we go here, we go tool library. The 10mm, let's edit this, and here are all the different, what I'm using it for. So let's just edit the tool quickly. Let's have a look at the distances on that. So this is very important here. Knowing what your flute length, so firstly the diameter of the tool, knowing what the flute length is, because again, if you don't have enough flute length and your part's longer than that, you're going to be rubbing against the shoulders and the side here, which you don't really want. And the other important thing is knowing what this body length is. Yeah, so the body length is actual from the I've added in mine the actual holder itself. So I've got the BT40 holder, which mine gives me the thickness and the width of it to make sure that I'm not running into something. And you can have different versions of this and you can change it as well. It's important to do that if you really want your simulation to give you accurate representation of what your machine's going to do, so you crash it. Doesn't mean you still don't make cock-ups, which I just did when I had the wrong, the actual flute lengths and stuff on the tool was a little bit of a nightmare for me. Anyway, so here it is here. If I was to change this, it's at 44 now, but if I was to change this to, let's say 30 millimeters, and I click OK, maybe what I should have done is run the thing before that, right? Anyway, let's just do this here. So let me do this here quickly. Let me generate that code. And then what I'm going to do here is let's just run through this very quickly. Just simulate. And then what we can do is we can always just flick through the simulate. Give me a second. Let's just generate all the code. Yes, just generate it. Right. Just waiting for it to all finish. Okay. Let's look at the stock. And then let's just go through here. So that's our adaptive. And you can see all these little red lines. It's saying collision with the stock, collision with the stock, collision. So as we go down, that pocket that we're doing. So if we run this here, let's remove the toolpath from that. As it starts going further down, watch what starts happening. It starts hitting. So that's quite important to make sure, otherwise you'll end up damaging your parts because the tool holder is going to be doing all that horrible work to your part there. So let's go back. It was 44 if I remember correctly. So let's go back to the tool library. Let's edit the end more. That was 44. And I did measure this, right? So when I was actually mounting the tools into my tool holders, I measure them to make sure that it is the 44 that I'm putting down here. I'm not just putting a number for the shits and giggles of it so that it works. I'm actually doing it properly. Let's generate all this code. Yes. We do it again. Let's simulate this quickly. Let's see what it looks like. Let's go through there. Let's go through there. And as you can see at the bottom here, there's no red to indicate that I'm actually hitting anything. So if I now run it and I put it to the side. Now there is deflection and all that other good stuff that comes with it, but for the life of me, I'm not, like I said, I'm not an expert, so just bear with me while I do this. As you can see, it's going through, it's not hitting anything. And there we have it, so we're now clear. And that's quite important. And then I'm using, as you can see, we start going around here to go even further and further. And then you can see my flute length as well. So I use that to make sure, stop this here. So I use that, let me just go back one. Okay. So I used this to make sure that the flute length that I had would actually get the whole side of the part as well. So that's also the important thing. And again, I measured it. It's not something that you just, decide to make a go at. You don't just do it. You actually have to measure these things properly. I'm just going to call this a test setup. Now, when you create the new setup, it's asking me where it is that I want to reference stuff off. So what I wanted to do was, I want to select the stock from preceding operations. And what I'm going to do now is if I look at the setup here, I'm just going to choose, I don't want it from a box, I actually want it from that point because I'm going to be using the middle of that. So I'm going to select a point. That's going to be my point there. But as you can see now, if I do this, my Z and X is all incorrect. So what I want to do is I want to not model, I want to select my Z plane. So this will be my Z plane. And my X is correct and the Y is correct. So I don't need to do anything else. And there's my stock from the preceding operations. And then I can click OK. So now I've set up where it is that I'm going to be machining from. What I can do is turn off that sketch. And now I can start selecting what it is that I want to do. So let's assume I want to cut this out first, which is not what I did, but let's just assume that's what I want to do, right? So I want to get down to probably just milling all of this out here first with a biggish end mill. So, and then we'll mill that in at the bottom. So we'll do this first and then we'll do that. So what I'm going to do is just take I'm going to do a facing operation, and I am going to face the outside of this. So let's do that there. So that's what I want to do. I want to face this on the outside. Actually, I don't want that one. I wanted that one there. You know, the furthest on the outside is what you want to do. And then that is my chain, and then my tool. So let's select the tool that we want to use. I'm going to use, just for the fun of it, we'll use the 16mm, this one here. And then what we'll do is its orientation. Now we need to set the heights that we're going to be doing this. So clearance height, we're just going to retract height, feed height, where it starts feeding in from. And you'll see my bottom is the same as that. So let's talk about the top height. So the top height is stock top. So I want to start from the top of the stock where I've zeroed it off. And then the bottom height, I want to now choose. I'm going to say select. So what I'd normally do is I just select. We'll go in here and we'll select that. I'll click the OK button. It will calculate it and it will show you, it will go from the stock and just machine across to get that done. Once this is machined, we now want to machine that. So what we can always do is we can go simulate, and then we can just hit the, let's hit the play button. So this is what it's going to do. There you go. So you can see it's with that. If you want, you can need to just go into more detail about how you get multiple passes and so on it goes. But that's just as a rough idea. And you can also choose, for example, comparison. So whatever is green means it's been fully machined. Whatever is blue means it still needs to be machined. So there's quite clever things that you can do here to have a look at the different areas. So anyway, so let me click close on that. So now let's do the inside one. Yeah. So I'm going to do a new pocketing operation. Just going to do again. We're going to choose a different tool this time. So let's choose a little 6mm flat end mill, and we're going to choose. It now wants to know where do we want to pocket. So we want to do that. It has this wonderful, lovely thing, this blue outside here, but I won't worry too much about that because it works fine. Now we're going to choose where do we want to do it from. So we don't really want to do it from the top of the stock. What we want to do is we actually want to start here. So when we choose again, so let's select, so let's just selection. I want to select it from there. That's the top. So now I've machined that. We know I've machined that clear. And then the bottom, I'm also going to select, and then I'm just going to select that face there, and I'm going to click OK, and it will have done some machining. So now, we can put those two together at the top here and go simulate. Let's have a look, see what it looks like. It's machining away, and then it will start doing that. Now remember, we can always do this to see if we get all the way down. So you see it's not all green, so we go, why is it not green? Let's go have a look at this pocket to see why it's not green. So if I open the pocket and I go and I edit it and I look at the passes, you'll see I have stock to leave, which is 0.5. So it's got 0.5 everywhere. What I can do is put finished passes on it. I want one finished pass. I want no stock to leave. And I can click OK. It will now recalculate it. Go back to the top. Lid is simulate this and let's have a go, see what it's going to look like. And you'll start seeing now that the green means there's no more stock that it needs to do. So there you go. Now there are a few blue bits here because this has got obviously a little bit of a chamfer in that, and the corners I can't get into because it's a round end mill. So it'll give you a view of what the pot's actually going to look like once it has been machined. I hope that helps. If you've got anything else, give us a shout, let me know. I'm happy to add to this or, you know, do a little bit more, but very quick, dirty, rough sort of how the camming works and the important bits. When you're setting your tooling up, make sure that you set it up, because when you run these simulations, you can run them over and over and over, and you can see what it's actually going to do before you run it on the machine. A really good way of just preventing any unforeseen things happening.